Is blindness a barrier? No.
Is deafness a barrier? No.
Are mobility, learning, cognitive disabilities, speech impairments and others, or even a combination of them, barriers? No way. Lack of accessibility is.
Welcome to Web Accessibility for All.
Follow the blind. This journey starts now.
Hi there! Welcome back to another episode of Web Accessibility for All, where we talk about making the web a better, more inclusive place. I am Ariel, your host, and today we are diving into accessibility overlays, a hot topic that stirred up quite the debate in the accessibility world. What are they? Why are they so controversial? And can they actually make a website accessible? Or are they a band-aid over a bigger problem? Let's get into it.
Now, moving into the accessibility thing? Yes, I know, we need to make our site accessible. I totally get it. We should just slap one of those accessibility overlays on it, okay? And call it a day. Problem solved.
I've heard those overlays aren't really effective, you know? Also, it would be an external dependency. It would be completely out of our control. Then, what I'm trying to say is, whenever it changes, we should retest everything top to
They're
bottom.
fast and cheap. They must work. Or why else would so many companies use them?
Yeah, I saw a fancy demo with a shiny button that changed the color scheme. That's good enough. We have a plan, right?
Oh, the joys of decision making in a company. You've got the site owner who just wants things fixed, the developer who knows better but is stuck in the middle, and of course, the managers and shareholders who want the easiest and quickest solution. But here's the thing. Accessibility overlays aren't the magic solutions that they might appear to be. So let's start explaining what they are, how they came to be, and why they often don't live up to their promises. Let me clarify that this won't be a rant against accessibility overlays in any way. But if you are new to accessibility and have been told that overlays are a good starting point, I'd like to share some insights as both a developer and a web accessibility specialist, okay? Cool. Now let's continue with the show.
What are accessibility overlays?
Accessibility overlays are software solutions, typically a bit of JavaScript, that sit on top of a website and claim to make it accessible. The idea is that with a quick install, they can automatically, or should I say automagically, fix accessibility issues by adding features like keyboard navigation, screen reader compatibility, contrast adjustments, and more. They usually include a floating icon on the page that opens an accessibility toolbar, offering users a variety of customization options. Overlays first gained popularity around the mid-2010s as companies look for faster ways to comply with accessibility laws like the Americans with Disabilities Act, or ADA, or meet standards like the WCAG, or Web Contents Accessibility Guidelines. These tools seem like a quick fix to a complex problem, but they are often not effective.
Why accessibility overlays fall short.
Now, before we tear these overlays apart, let's be fair. In some cases, they do help a little. They can provide short-term fixes for users who need certain adjustments like increasing text size or adjusting contrast. And for some smaller websites or apps, they might address some issues faster than doing nothing at all. To be fair, many of these tools do include a disclaimer stating that they are not proposed as a full solution. But, and this is a big but, overlays are far from a true solution. In fact, they come with a whole host of problems. Conceptually, right from the start, they are a bad technical decision. They are based on the wrong idea that accessibility is a feature. So we can add it to a website like a weather widget or something similar. No, accessibility is a core part of the development process. Moreover, we know digital products evolve all the time. So, how can we ensure that an accessibility overlay will evolve with it? Plus, every site or app is different. And even when the developers stay the same, the technologies, practices, and methodologies change over time. How can a solution like this be equally effective when it's tied directly to the site where it's used? And more importantly, to the specific needs of its users? I mean, is a shared sales site the same as a car dealership one? Are the users of one site the same as the other? A quick search on the NPM directory shows over 20 libraries that either are or include one of these widgets. Interestingly, there are even design systems with their own accessibility overlay. But I wonder, my friend, come on, how can a design system include something like that in the first place? Isn't it supposed to be a design consideration and not just a component or feature?
One, overlays don't fix the underlying issues.
Accessibility isn't just about adding a toolbar with a high contrast mode or allowing keyboard navigation. It's about ensuring that your website is built from the ground up with accessibility in mind. Properly structured HTML, semantic elements, alt text for images, correct area roles, and more. Overlays don't address those underlying issues. They can only paper over the cracks. Let's say a website has poorly labeled buttons, or a form that is not accessible for screen reader users. An overlay might try to help by adding some superficial fixes, but often it's just a patch, not a proper repair. As the W3C says in their accessibility statement,
Automated tools and overlays cannot reliably solve all accessibility issues, and many important aspects require human attention and thoughtful design.
2, they can actually break the user experience.
here's where it gets wild. Accessibility overlays can sometimes create more problems than they solve. Ironic, right?
I swear, I'm trying to navigate this site with my screen reader, but the overlay keeps hijacking it and doing something weird.
Yep, that happens. Overlays can interfere with native browsers' accessibility support and assistive technology functions, causing conflict with screen readers, keyboard navigation, or custom settings users rely on. There have been numerous reports from users, especially those who rely on assistive tech, saying that overlays can be downright disruptive. Screen reader users, for example, might find that an overlay messes with the reading order of content, making it harder to navigate than if the overlay wasn't there at all.
3. Legal risks and false compliance.
Well, at least we won't get sued, right?
Actually, relying on an overlay could increase your legal risk. Some companies think,
Hey, we've installed this overlay, so we're safe from accessibility lawsuits.
the problem is that overlays often don't bring websites into full compliance with accessibility standards like the WCAG. Several lawsuits have been filed despite companies using overlays because the sites were still inaccessible. In fact, there are even instances where users have argued that overlays make things worse. According to a DQ University study, overlays can create a false sense of security that your site is accessible, when in reality, many issues remain unfixed.
4. Overlays don't address mobile accessibility.
Overlays are often designed with desktop experiences in mind, and the mobile web is a complete different beast. Mobile users, especially those using screen readers like TalkBack on Android or VoiceOver on iOS, may face entirely different accessibility issues that overlays can't address. For example, gestures like swiping and tapping need to be carefully designed to be accessible. Overlays, which mostly rely on desktop style controls, don't really provide any meaningful fixes for mobile app users.
Are there any positive aspects?
Okay, let's give credit where credit is due. Accessibility overlays can be helpful in certain cases. They are fast to implement, which is why some companies are drawn to them, and they can provide a few customization options for users who need larger text or different color contrasts. But again, these are small surface level fixes. They are like putting a bandage on a broken leg. It might help for a second, but you are not actually fixing the problem.
The consequences of relying on overlays.
What happens if you decide to rely solely on an overlay to make your site accessible? First, you risk alienating the very people you're trying to help. Users with disabilities who find your overlay clunky or ineffective will leave your site and they won't come back. And let's be honest, the goal of web accessibility isn't just compliance, it's making sure everyone can use your site easily and enjoyably. Second, you are not actually fixing your website. The underlying code remains flawed, meaning you'll have to address it later, likely after an accessibility audit or lawsuit.
Final thoughts.
But Ariel, isn't there an easy solution?
I wish there were. The truth is, real accessibility takes effort. It requires thinking about accessibility at every step of your design and development process. From the very beginning, it's not something you can slap on at the end with an overlay. That said, I encourage developers, site owners, and managers to invest in learning about accessibility. There are tons of great resources out there, from the Way or Web Accessibility Initiative to DQ University and beyond. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope this episode has given you some food for thought. If you have been thinking on using an overlay, just remember, accessibility is about more than just ticking a box. It's about creating a better experience for everyone. See you, my friend. Goodbye.
Thanks for joining us today. Subscribe for a new challenge next week. And don't be shy. Leave us a review or ask your accessibility questions online. See you next week for another episode of Web Accessibility for All.